Hello, I'm Joan. I'm a Canadian family physician who also works as a restorative medical educator, facilitator, and coach. I create spaces that rehumanize the work of healthcare. I'm creating this podcast to remind myself, as well as anyone else working in a helping profession, that when you are working and caring for your human patients, you are the other human in the room. Hey there, healthcare human. Today's podcast guest is a fellow co-founder of the Hippocratic Collective, a brand new podcasting network made by physicians for physicians. I am thrilled to announce that the other human in the room is joining the Hippocratic Collective alongside other physician creators who are inspired to use their voice to humanize healthcare. Physicians need to be heard, not just consulted. Together, we're here to change that. Visit hippocraticcollective.org to learn more. Hey there, healthcare humans. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of The Other Human in the Room. This is a repeat guest, fan fave, or at least a me fave. I'd say a fan fave too. I get a lot of feedback about the mediocrity episode that this particular guest did with me earlier this year. And we're back again, two half Asian physicians, just like having a little chat. But in case I didn't hear your last one, Frances Mei, how would you like to introduce us to you this time?
Thank you so much for having me. I love the half Asian intro, just two half Asian girlies.
Yep.
Taylor Swift super fans.
Yes.
Who are trying to reclaim their humanity in healthcare. Joan is, for everyone out there, I guess I would introduce myself as like a mentee of Joan's. Like I'm trying to learn how to be human. And I really, you do have to like your teacher. Like probably not just anyone could walk out of the woodwork and tell me that I am working myself to death. But Joan does it in a way where, you kind of hear her and you say, oh, all right. You caught me.
It's not a shame thing. It's just a self-reflection. Does this fit your life right now? Kind of thing, It's important. Yeah. So I was thinking, well, I guess, do you want to announce your news? I know you literally already have announced this news, but like what major change is happening in your life later this year, Frances Mei?
Yes. It is so crazy to like finally say it out loud, but I am officially leaving medicine. I'm a 33-year-old ENT surgeon, and this is it for me. People are not going to want to hear it. People are not going to like it. People do not like it when doctors quit clinical practice. They simply do not. I think that one way that I would kind of frame it to try and do my elevator pitch, it'd be this. I invented female surgeon rage. And like the world was not ready for it. And what they're even more so not ready for is female surgeon joy, which I have like been experiencing for the first time in my career as my clinical practice comes to a close.
Wow. I'd love to start there, actually. I have a million questions about this. And I was thinking, like, what I'd said to Frances Mei before we started is, like, we're going to treat this as your, like, exit interview for medicine. So, like, medicine better, like, listen up, because there's some things to be learned, perhaps some, like, feedback to take. But I'd love to hear about that end bit. So, like, where's the joy coming from, do you think, as you're winding down?
I think for me, it is ultimately coming from agency. Like I feel like for the first time pretty much in my life, I am making a decision that I came to on my own and that I like totally claim ownership of. My parents wanted me to be a doctor when I was little. I decided to go to medical school at 17, and then I just got on the conveyor belt and I stayed on the conveyor belt, and I pretty much denied and squashed down and tried to fight every single cue for over a decade that it was not right.
Yeah. Tell me a bit more about those cues. So like, what was it when you think back? This is the exit interview portion. So like, what were the signals from your brain, from your body, from your behavior that were letting you know that medicine maybe wasn't a right fit for you?
I think that especially in the earlier years, kind of like late med school, but mostly residency, like all 5 years of ENT residency, when people talk about moral injury, one of the facets of that is just this thought that like there was a lot that happened at work that I wasn't okay with.
Mm.
And, let's take me out of the equation. I'm just a bystander on the wall. There was a lot that happened that I was in the room for that I was not okay with. And so there's an element of like self-betrayal when you stay in those rooms. Or let's say that somebody chews you out and you just take it. I mean, what's the alternative? So you just kind of like internalize it and you absorb all the shame from that. And worst of all, right, you start being like, okay, I accept that message about myself.
Mm.
I think that that's another form of self-betrayal. Like, we're not supposed to stand up for ourselves. I mostly didn't.
Yeah.
And I really think that, the body keeps the score, that type of stuff. Like, my migraines went off the charts, my TMJ off the charts. I mean, just truly like, very severe refractory to conservative management types of extremes for these. And over a year ago in my attending practice, that's when I ended up in the emergency room and then going to the OR for abdominal pain that turned out to be 21 bleeding ulcers, in my stomach and duodenum. So it's like, I do think that the body keeps the score. I liked the book. I read that after residency and I was like, oh yeah, no shit. Sorry, you can bleep out the shit.
I will not bleep out the shit. I refuse. But like, seriously, I mean, it's actually kind of fascinating how, I don't know about how your medical training framed it, but I don't think that my medical training really let me know that the body keeps the score in some ways, where it's like, yes, if you smoke over time, it will accumulate and la la la, like that kind of thing. But in terms of like, and there was some like shamey stuff where it's like, well, if people don't eat healthy, basically they give themselves diabetes. No one like explicitly said that in medical school, but that's like a hidden curriculum of
the
our
implication.
society.
It's
There's
the implication.
They're non-adherent, non-compliant to lifestyle measures,
Yeah.
etc. But like, it's interesting how you don't have one or multiple lectures that are like, what stress does to you, what overworking does to the body. Like, you know what I mean? What lack of sleep and high stress environments do to the body. Why don't they teach us that in medical school?
Because they got to fill their seats, Joan. Like,
Yeah.
if I had really like comprehensive training and education on that,
Yeah.
I would have left.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's part of why I'm leaving now. Like, I'm 33. I'm not dead yet. I'm not willing to continue to sacrifice my body to those like pretty extraordinary stressors over time. And again, like in my case, I just think that there's stressors that aren't in line with my values and my goals. Like, that's the thing. Because of course, people will say any job has stress. Your next job will have stress. But I mean, being a human adult in this day and age is quite stressful in and of itself. But like, the best we can do is try to align all the parts of our life so that at least there's not that like additional friction. I just think that for me, going to work every day has felt like getting my teeth pulled out because of these really redundant layers of additional friction.
Yeah. So what were some of those for you? So some was definitely like the horrific mistreatment through training. What were some of those other extra layers that, again, and just to be clear, the reason I'm not saying this not to like put salt in the wound, but there may be others listening being like, maybe like, what are my additional friction layers, right? Like, I think it's really useful to demystify the process that someone goes through when they decide to leave a position or leave a career, because sometimes that's really shrouded in like secrecy or shame or something. But like, what if it didn't have to be? What if that would be like very informative for people so they could like reflect on it for themselves, right? So just framing why I'm asking. So yeah, like
Totally.
For you, what additional friction layers have come up that have let you know that it's just not a good match?
Yeah, I think that, so, one layer, and maybe like, the parental wound layer, is that ultimately at the end of the day, I was never a kid who wanted to be a doctor. I have been afraid of blood and needles since I have had memories. This is really more of a testament to how much, and you know this, Joan, how much of a person, the type of person that I am, where like I can just grit my teeth and I could do anything and I can desensitize myself to anything. I can compartmentalize anything away. But like, even for a person who as an adult still does not like shots for themselves now, does not like blood unless I'm desensitized to it in a specific context, it's like, I really think that there was a lot I was drawn to as a young kid who loved the arts, who loved STEM as well, like a lot in math and science, but like loved the arts and then just like ended up in medicine. So I think that that was like one layer.
Yeah.
And then that being said, even when I did pick medicine, I was very much favoring. I loved like palliative care, hemonc. I personally had lost multiple family members at home. While I was still young, I lost immediate family members to hospice care at home. And so like I really, and I knew, I was like, you know what? I would be good at like this conversation, the death conversation, cancer diagnoses. And honestly, that's one of the most rewarding parts of like my ENT practice is head and neck cancer, walks in off the street. We do a lot of workup and diagnosis and stuff like that. And I cherish those conversations. I think I'm good at them. Okay, well then how'd I end up being a surgeon, right? And so this other layer of friction is that I wanted to be, like, I didn't want to be perceived as lower in the food chain in the hospital, right? In the hierarchy. I was like, okay, so obviously specialty surgeons are like towards the top there. I thought, okay, that's pretty good. I want to go for that. I want to like have that status and prestige. Obviously, spoiler alert, that is really not a good reason to do something. And I think that whole layer of friction like rubbed on everything that I did.
Yeah.
Coming from this place of ego. I mean, because again, like it's so fallacious to do it. And also just imagine the fact that then you're showing up to stuff still being treated like a worm for sure for all 5 years of residency. And it kind of was like, the juice was never worth the squeeze for me on all of these different levels.
Yeah. Oh, it's like heartbreaking, like, and for you, but also like, so how often that happens, whether it's that, like, I can think of like pre-med colleagues, or sometimes like, you encounter students and you see like such a classic one is my parents, it was like lawyer or doctor, just choose one of those. Like, first of all, as if there's not 50 billion other professions. And like, those are two very specific things. And I would love if the people who showed up to doctor and lawyer jobs like chose them versus had a very limited menu. That was because of prestige. That was because of those things. And yet like, it's such a common narrative in our culture that then and then like intertwines with our egos to say like, I want to be seen as the best. Often, I was just actually having a conversation earlier today about like how we can get really like even like emotionally conditioned to get like a high from praise, to get a high from having the 107% exam or whatever. Like we can almost get that, we need that dopamine rush of being the best and seen as the best. But, just like any chasing of dopamine, whether it's a substance or a behavior, diminishing returns.
Diminishing returns.
Yeah. So do you think it was like really the body that was like, okay, it's time? Or like what else that because, sunk cost fallacy is a thing. Like, what sort of helped you to shift your thinking so then you could consider the possibility of no longer practicing medicine?
Totally. I think that first, like, sentinel event where you just actually give yourself permission to leave, to even have the thought of, like, what if I left? That was very formative for me. I still remember that. I started going to therapy as a new attending because the PTSD that I had from residency training was making it quite unpleasant to go to my job in the hospital.
Yeah.
So, and that's a success story because by all means, like I graduated, I got the job I wanted, and it still was that untenable. So anyway, my therapist was working with me. We did some hypnosis and things like that. And really, we did get to a breakthrough, which was like, I guess I'll share this piece of it. She basically had posed to me, what is the worst thing that could happen? Like, so what are you afraid of? And like, I was doing a lot of gymnastics, mental gymnastics, nearly physical gymnastics to like make my life work, to make it work. And I told her that the worst thing would be for me to be an ENT forever. And that was like from the sunken place. That was like from a very deep, true place of knowing that like, I don't think that conscious me would admit stuff like that. Like, no way. That's why people sometimes allude to, hypnosis as having like 10-year talk therapy breakthroughs, because like that truly is like what came up. Like, so that's the worst life that I could imagine for myself. And guess what? Like, I came out of that session of therapy, and this was, easily, it was 2 years ago now, maybe 2+ years ago, that I walked out being like, okay, I guess we have like unscrewed the jar off of a totally new, unscrewed the lid off of like a totally new jar. And that was how that breakthrough came about.
Wow. So did you have you been making a transition plan since then, or what's the process been like? Because it was sort of still some denial phase. I'm like, I don't, maybe that means I'll retire in 10 years, or, you know what I mean? Like, what
That's
happened?
even how we left it. Seriously. Like that was like the compromise, because I was like so scared of like what we uncovered that day. And we said, okay, 10 years is good. And I was like, yeah, I could probably do anything for 10 years. And, I guess then when I got my written qualifying exam, the board exam back, I passed that. I got that result while I was sitting on a plane, actually, like we were about to take off. I got the result and I cried. Wow. Because it was such a relief. But I guess that was another big sentinel event, because that happened, I don't know, 6 or 8 months later. So I get the pass email and I cried, and I was like, I can really leave. That was my thought, though, because I think that there was something that I had to prove to myself. And when I got that email, that's when I really was like, okay, like I don't have to wonder if I like had what it took, or, whatever, all the stuff that we tell ourselves. Like, I was like, okay. And then I took it more seriously. And then, practice is like mired in moral injury. That's a pretty popular topic that a lot of people talk about from just like the admin and insurance and like more logistical standpoints. So the ball kept rolling from there. But I do think that it's worth saying that like the thing holding me back, clearly this was all just for me. Like the fact that passing boards equaled I can really leave. Like I give myself permission now.
Yeah. It's like I had to make sure I could run the Ironman, not even just the marathon, but I had to do the full Ironman. And now I can just like never run again, basically, right? You had to like scale the mountaintop. Yeah. Hey, but like whatever gets you there, some people, it's like, well, I got to wait. Now it's, 30 years into a career and you've known you've been miserable the whole time. I'm curious, and I mean, you don't have to tell any specifics if it feels too personal, but like, I would imagine that one of my common barriers that used to hold me back more than it does now, but still can, is my fear of what other people will think of me, say to me, how they will judge me if I do something that's I'm perceiving as non-normative, that people are going to have their little comments, like family, colleagues. I'm always trying to please the people who are meanest to me in my life. I'm like still picturing old teachers. I'm like, that Joan, she's such a disappointment because XYZ, right? So first of all, can you relate? And if so, what was that process like, right? Because you are making a choice that is not following the script we're given. Because like, especially as physicians, it's like, you're supposed to like, I think work until you literally die. Like, fine, you could retire, but only in your like 70s, maybe. Like, it's like, really, you're supposed to wait till they have to like age you out of the hospital because you physically, and you're like embarrassing and
I know, like security has to drag you out.
Yeah. Like, and that's acceptable. Anything before that, it's like, you could have given a bit more, you know? So did you have that?
I was just at a conference and there was an 80-year-old physician literally sitting in front of me, just working away, just clacking away on his laptop the whole time. I was like, are you not tired, man? Like doing notes, emails, like just a machine.
Wow.
Yeah, they were made different back in the day. I don't know that that's better or worse, just made different.
Yep.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. And of course I relate. Like, oh my God, the specters. Because again, I feel like in my case, yeah, absolutely. There are people who like never think about me, are so many years removed from me.
Yeah.
And I do feel like I have made a conscious decision to not let them run my life anymore. Here's the secret. Like, this is like the most pro tip. They don't tell you this. I think that for me, it was a bit of a slippery slope in the sense that like there were already some things. Okay, here's how I'll frame it. Sorry, I'll frame it in two different ways. Yeah. Number one, in terms of my practice decisions, when I was mid-residency and knew that, one, I would barely survive residency, I said, for sure, I don't want to do a fellowship. And that decision to not do a fellowship, people already are going to talk. People are already going to be like, wow, so you just gave up. You just like came all this way and then you just like, you're just hanging, throwing in the towel. And God. It's like, that was it was hard for me to let go of that at the time. I'm so glad I did. Like, that was me really drawing a boundary, and like, I'm glad I didn't do fellowship. But that's an example of like, that feedback is going to come either way. Yeah. And it gets easier for me to stomach the more of it that I've had.
I know you like, so you've been sharing a bit about leaving and being critical of the medical system online and like on social media and stuff. And some people have been less than pleasant, as shocking on the internet. Have you noticed common themes of like the inhuman stories that people are offering to you as you share like your reasons for leaving?
Yeah, I think that, anecdotally, a lot of the people who say, are you me? Like, I get a lot of messages, a lot of comments, DMs that are like, were you in my program with me? Or like, are you,
wow,
are you just me? Guess what? They're almost all women. Mm-hmm. Not 100%, but guess what? They are all, I would say, minorities, like women and underrepresented minorities. And it's like, I'm just putting it out there. I just noticed a little bit of a theme in terms of like, a lot of us have actually had in many ways similar experiences.
Yeah.
In terms of being told you're not assertive enough. You're way too assertive. You're not interested too much. You're too interested. You're coming on too strong, literally. And these girls, I mean, like, have heard it all. Like, literally, you're too quiet. It comes off uninterested. But yet a month later on a different rotation, it's you're coming across arrogant. And also you're like annoying people to death. Yeah. I always come back to the quote, which is, as a woman, you're always too young or too old because the right age is when you're a man.
That's really good. I haven't heard that one. Help. Yeah.
But I love it. Like, I do feel like just at the end of the day, a lot of my content is for the girls. I think that a lot of the stuff that comes under fire, what's so funny is now we do have like a great little crew of, I think, people who get it, right? And so now on my video, like, one person will comment, and it's always like user XXX44309, and they'll be like, do you do anything other than complain about medical training? Like, this is the worst page I could ever have imagined on TikTok. And people will reply. The girls will get in there and they'll be like, honestly, we like it. So you don't have to come to this page if you don't want to. Like this, this is very healing. And I will say, just my final plug for like what I'm doing online is that there are a lot of people who say this is the only relatable person talking about medicine. And I agree, because I will tell you, when I was a medical student, a resident, even a new attending, that whole time I never followed one medical account because I found them very triggering.
Yeah.
Because it was some version of a pretty affable doctor being like, are the hours tough? Yeah, but like my co-residents and I, we get a beer and we have like a nice talk over it. Like, I'm just saying, a lot of what's out there, totally inaccessible, totally unrelatable to me. And it led to me consuming no medical content for my entire journey.
Yeah. Wow. So just like, it's so important what you're doing, actually, right? Like, to create that space for people. Okay. I want to transition to our next topic, and I'm going to do it by reading from a sacred text. Are you ready?
Yes.
This is the sacred text.
Oh my gosh.
Evermore by Taylor Swift.
What is that? The book?
I have almost all of the piano books. Because that way I can play and sing Taylor songs.
That's amazing.
Okay. That old familiar body ache, the snaps from the same little breaks in your soul, you know when it's time to go. Sometimes giving up is the strong thing. Sometimes to run is the brave thing. Sometimes walking out is the one thing that will find you the right thing. That is from a Taylor Swift song called what was it actually called? It's Time to Go. I actually really love that song. I don't know.
A sacred text.
Sacred text. That's my transition to talk about, so leaving the one wrong thing. What's it leading to? What's the path forward from here?
I'm so excited because, honestly, my husband and I, the plan had been like, I'm just not going to renew my contract, which is what I'm doing. I'm just not renewing my contract. So it's like, honestly, a very peaceful, this is like as peaceful of a separation, I guess, as anyone could do. Like, yeah, it's not violent. It's of my own volition. I'm not renewing a contract. And I wanted to take a sabbatical. I was like, I'm going to take a few months and I'll do what I want. I'll just like read and walk. And of course, those plans got a little bit foiled. Yes. Because with the new startup, the Hippocratic Collective, I am so excited to basically just take an endeavor that's 100% my own. I think all the work that I've been doing for the past 3 years has all really led up to this, in terms of like, I had my own podcast show weekly for a year. I created Rethinking Residency with all of its like resources and blog content. I wrote my first book.
Yeah.
I published my first book through the Hippocratic Press. And, so at the Hippocratic Collective, this basically is, number one, an example of when people won't give you a seat at the table, you make your own table.
Yep.
And number two, like thinking outside the box a little bit. My whole career as a surgeon, as an ENT surgeon, still prepares me pretty well to run my own startup and create like a media and marketing empire, which is what this next chapter is.
Yes. So I think in the order we're releasing these, yours is going to be the first of like a series of interviews. So just for those listening, first of all, just to be explicitly clear, Hippocratic Collective is Frances Mei's like vision. This is her baby. And I'm so excited to be one of the members of the collective. I feel so honored and thrilled to be on the ground floor. It feels like, wow, I'm on the ground floor of something. I've never been on the ground floor of something before. It's very fun.
Yes, we have just 7 co-founders.
Yeah.
Joan is one of them. Joan is like the heart and soul and ethos of the company. Because as I alluded to earlier, my loving husband, again, so lovingly, he was like, you're going to need someone on the team who like really, they keep the vision. Mm-hmm. They keep you on the straight and narrow, not like veering off into just late stage capitalism and things like that.
Yes.
So Joan is the holdback guy and the heart.
So good. Well, and I'm honored to be that and to bring the other human in the room to this network. It's so, I will say, like, for me, when you pitched me for it, um, I it felt like perfect timing because, I've been doing the other human in the room for almost 3 years now, which is like what happened. I don't understand. And I've been doing it by myself. Like I do everything. And that's been very thrilling. It's been like wonderfully creative and liberating to just like, have no one's my boss. And what's cool about the collective is that no one will continue to be my boss. Like it, because it's just a collective, like we all get to like still shine in our own ways with our own shows and podcasts and stuff. But like the one thing I've been really craving is more community because it is also lonely to be like in your van or in your house, like uploading things.
Yeah.
And so the idea of actually being in partnership and community and collaboration with other physicians who also want to like change the system, whether they think it's that or not. But in my opinion, like the fact that it's like showing that physicians are more than the box that people think they are, including that physicians are creative, physicians are multifactorial, multi-talented, and that actually creates a more thriving version of healthcare as if we actually support physicians and not actually only physicians, but like all humans and certainly everyone in healthcare, like having outlets and support so that people can have creative things outside of healthcare will actually like help healthcare be better. And so it just felt like perfect timing for me and meeting the other co-founders who you guys will meet in the subsequent weeks interviews. It's just so cool to see what everyone's doing. And yeah, I'd love to hear any more, like, even if it's just the daydream vision or like, what are some of the hopes and dreams that you have for Hippocratic Collective as you're building it out?
Yeah, I think that, if you guys are familiar with like what The Ringer has done or like Barstool Sports, like really in medicine, we don't have much, if anything. We don't have anything that's really cool or really our own. And so thinking of this as like building up the Barstool Sports of medicine, we do have the co-founder, 8 total personalities. And like, what's so great is how diverse of a group we are. Like there are a lot of people that will just resonate, one-on-one with the audience, the listener. But what's also really exciting to me, and I think like one of my favorite projects under the HC umbrella is like the Daily Show development, because people will want to see the personalities interact. Like that's what I think really breeds a successful, network and collective. And so we'll probably start with like just 2 days a week.
Yeah.
Early summer, but the goal is a Monday through Friday, couple headlines a day, kind of like the Daily Rundown style show. And part of all of this is that, it is coming at a time where there isn't any really reputable physician media, so we are a group of like successful physicians who practice evidence-based medicine and are able to creatively articulate, respectfully, like our opinions and thought leadership and as well as like hot takes on new music and things like that.
Yes. Absolutely.
Or old music, because it's just me and Joan going in circles like with the old Taylor discography.
Listen, I'm here for that. And I mean, eventually she has to release Reputation and debut Taylor's versions, at least.
Yes, I know. A lot of rumors about Reputation, Taylor's version.
I know, but I mean, there's also been a lot of rumors for like 2 years. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not actually losing faith, but it is like, gosh, girl, how's it going? Is it coming?
Exactly. But I think that to kind of emphasize the breadth of what we're doing, though, by also having like an indie publishing press as well as the digital marketing agency and everything like that, like we're really poised to become just a one-stop shop that's accessible, trustworthy, by physicians for physicians.
Yep. I love it. Obviously, I love it. I'm like very on board, including on board for coming down to Nashville at some point and hanging out in person.
Yep. The first summit is this August. Yep. And we're getting ready. I mean, I literally am like getting the gift bags ready for the event.
That's amazing.
I'm on it. I should not be focusing on that right now, but it's fun for me. So I have been.
Yes, that means you should be focusing on it. You got to sprinkle the fun in from all the rest. All right. Well, I guess, and so here's the other thing. So like you're doing this transition, right? And sometimes then people have this idea that, the next thing is going to be the thing that saves them. It's going to be like the gold at the end of the rainbow. But you've like had some options of gold at the end of the rainbow moments. And as you've arrived, you realize like, uh-oh, this isn't all it cracked up to be. So I'm curious about your mindset, like going through this transition and into this new project. What are you telling yourself so that you don't end up repeating patterns that you noticed didn't serve you in the past, that you created out of survival, of course, but like now that you get to be your own boss, what kind of boss are you going to be?
Yes. Oh my gosh. You caught me again.
Secret coach question.
I seriously, no, like, and I will, like, I think that the best thing that happened for me as an attending over these past 3 years, and the thing that like ultimately has saved me, is probably the writers group I joined, the Neil Strauss writers group. I wrote my first book. And what's so funny about writing a book is that the first draft was just filled with lies. Not intentional.
Yeah.
Not intentionally filled with lies. And so, I'm looking at this manuscript and I'm like, man, and my husband was like, it doesn't make sense. The motivations for why you did X and Y and Z, they don't quite make sense. This isn't believable. Now the story's getting a little weird here. The narrative's unreliable. The narrator was unreliable.
Yeah.
And so that perfectly fed into all of the therapy and like, what lies do we tell ourselves? I think especially in medicine, because for me to be a successful surgeon and to show up every day, I mean, I had to do a lot of compartmentalization, a lot of mental gymnastics, denial, like a lot of just facades, I think. Yeah. And so it was very freeing to not do all of that. I will say, to your point, that now that I am my own boss at the startup side, like, yes, I'm still practicing ENT full time.
Yeah.
Up until the end of the contract. But on the startup side, I'm my own boss. And I'm still like, I'm tired. Like, this boss is working me to the bone. And so I had to reach out to Joan and be like, the problem is me. Because even when you finally like remove all these things, more of what you talked about with like the dopamine, the perpetual to-do list, the constant achievement, like I stay moving. And even when it's my own startup on my own timeline, I'm putting in these crazy 7-day weeks, late nights.
Mm-hmm.
I think that to answer your question about how this will be different, I don't have a specific expectation for how it will turn out. I don't feel like I put that pressure on myself. Yeah. I feel like I do my visualizations. I know what I want. I can daydream about a $50 million media company.
Yeah.
But I don't know for the first time in my life what next year will look like, or what 2 years will look like, or what 3 years will look like. Because literally up until now, it's been like, okay, well, you'll be an M4 at this point. You'll be a PGY3 at this point. You'll be a fifth year attending at this point.
Wow. It's, there's so much liberation in it. There, if any part of you feels terrified, that would also be valid, because like I think a lot of us are drawn to a path because we think it'll keep us safe, but LOL, did it? No. Like, so there you go. So time to get off the path, time to go like forage through a forest and like see what's going on there. Right?
Totally. I think honestly, one way that it really helped me is that talk about amor fati and like a love of fate, and like coming to terms with even the pain, the really brutal parts of the journey. My husband and I, in reflecting like during my years as an attending, he's been like, you should be glad that your residency was as malignant and as traumatic as it was.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if it hadn't been, I would just like settle for the B+ life. I would like take my golden handcuffs and I'd say, well, it's good money and I don't love it, but I'm not getting beat up. It's like, I am truly grateful. I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for all of it shaking out the way it did, because that unsettledness, like the degree of trauma that it caused me, forced me to make a move.
Wow.
And I think, yes, I have days where I'm terrified. I have days where I'm uneasy. I'm nauseous. I'm like kind of anxious, like, well, what does the future hold? But guess what? None of that, the worry, the fear, the nausea, the sadness, none of it even compares to how much I would feel all those things if I just stayed put. And so I kind of reframe it like that continually.
Yes. Like there's so like Glennon Doyle says like choose your hard, because she says we can do hard things, and it's like so if you're gonna feel icky feelings either way, which ones do you want to feel? Or like do you want to feel feelings but you're doing it towards something that has meaning for you, that lights you up, so that at least it's like a nice stew of emotion.
Yeah, I was not experiencing the stew. I was getting like the evil meatloaf every day. One flavor.
Let's mix it up. Well, I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited to get like a front seat within the company that's helping to like, it's okay. I also, just to validate, like, it's sort of like the methadone of medicine, of you're like hyper overworking and you know how to do that, and then like over time you can slowly like taper down if you want. And
that's good. Yeah, you'll prescribe me my like metaphorical methadone. Give me like, we just need to like wean off the working hours, because I know that like it's so funny, you guys, like we go to meetings and I'll be like, call me 24/7, like email me 24/7. I'll always, and Joan's like, nope. All right, try again. And I'm like, okay, well, like, 18 hours a day I'm available. Just like, hit me up. And Joan's like, closer, but no. And like, yeah.
She can take a few days to respond to email. It's okay.
No, that's insane. We're definitely not there yet. Well, I'll come back on the show later this year and we'll see like what I think a acceptable turnaround response time is.
Yes. I leave things in my inbox, sometimes for weeks. Sometimes I'm just not answering it, Frances Mei. I'm like, I don't got nothing to say. Archive. I don't have anything to say. And then if it really matters to them, they'll like pop back up. But, it's an invitation. You can say yes or no.
Took my breath away to even just hear you say that.
Well, it's just fascinating. This is an email experiment for anyone. Like, what happens if you let things percolate, even for 24 hours? But like, even imagine like 1 to 3 days. Sometimes, especially if it's like a group situation, the other people will figure it out without you, or they'll solve their own problem and be like, never mind. It's incredible. So just a little thought experiment. No one has to follow through, but something to think about.
I love it. I think that when the student is ready,
yes,
the teacher appears.
That's right. This is your wax on, wax off moment.
Yeah.
So good. Well, Frances Mei, I guess, what do you want to let people know about where they can find you and where they can find the Hippocratic Collective on the internet?
Please feel free to connect with me online. I'm on Instagram at Frances Mei MD and TikTok at Frances Mei MD. Join us at the Hippocratic Collective. We're at hippocratic-collective.com, and all the co-founders are like such a great welcoming group. So we cannot wait for y'all to just join us and come on this ride. I think that at the end of the day, the most universal thing about what I'm going through is that a lot of us are faced with the option to leave the wrong relationship, job, situation. You have it.
Yes.
And, if I can be a person who's very open about that process, then I'm going to do that this year. And catch me on my new podcast, Surgeon Interrupted. It comes out May 6th, and it'll be out every Tuesday, just following me through the process of these last few months of clinical practice and then into the beyond after that.
I'm so excited. I'm definitely going to listen. Yay.
Thank you.
Well, thanks as always, Frances Mei. Taking some of that precious time out of a double duty schedule that you're working now. For all those listening, I hope you got as much out of it as I did. And just invitation to like notice what your body's telling you. That's a common one for me. And the other takeaway I heard was like, notice about, there's always going to be friction. There's always going to be stress. There's always going to be things you don't like about your job. And just like notice how many of those layers are building up. And what if you didn't have to tolerate all of them? Whether it's you make a change within your job or you make a change to your job or your like profession completely. Like, what if those are actually all options on the menu? And so that is the lesson that I'm hearing from Frances Mei. Yay. All right. Well, for everyone listening, have a great week. We'll talk to you next week. Bye. I would love to take this work deeper with you. Visit joanchanmd.com today and discover my growing menu of options for restorative medical education to suit your learning needs. I offer one-on-one coaching, customized workshops, and self-study courses that allow you to connect not only with my work on a deeper level, but also with other healthcare humans just like you. So if you want to start humanizing your work in healthcare to a deeper level and do it in community with others, please visit joanchanmd.com and find those options and what fits you and your life today.